Hey guys, it's Dr. Chris at Adventure Chiropractic. We're back today with some Friday fitness tips. Today we're talking yard work. It is a nice day out and it's that time of year again. So we're going to clean up the yard a little bit. We've got some nice vole damage to take care of, some raking to do, some trailers to move. So thought I'd help out with some tips for you guys. So not as many of you maybe need to come in for a tune-up, tweaking that back while you're doing some of these things. We see a lot of common mistakes people make that hurts their back when they're doing lifting around the house during spring cleanup, or maybe when they're raking, doing other activities around. So Asher's going to help me out today with some of the yard work. You ready to go, buddy? High five. Yeah, okay, we're ready to go. We're going to see around the back of the house and do some raking. All right, guys, so we're going to talk about raking for just a second. This sounds silly that we should even have to go over it, but there is kind of a right way and a wrong way to rake. So just start out with the way I usually see people telling me they were raking if they come to the office because they tweak their back after clearing their whole yard. They usually rake stuff into little piles. They reach all the way around themselves as far as they can possibly twist and get these little piles, and then they pick them all up. That's a great way to actually shear and strain those discs in your lower back by doing that twisting motion as you're reaching, okay? So we want to avoid that as much as possible. Whenever you can, think like a typewriter. You want to rake from side to side, moving back and forth and scooting your row forward. So for me, I got to get my wood chips back into our little planter boxes here, flower beds. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of that. It just takes a few seconds. You'll still get the job done, but you'll be a lot happier with your back by the time you're done. So we come up around here, and we're going to stay as straight across as we can, using our arms to pull rather than doing a big twist with our back. You're using your core to stabilize. Anybody in the gym that knows what a pull-off press is going to understand how that works. So we're going to keep our core tight and just move our body across to get all of our mulch back in the bin so that can mulch back down. I'm looking to hire some people for some backyard work. If you can help me out. I lost my best employee to the sandbox within 5 minutes of starting. So next up, what I want to cover with you guys is proper squatting and bending technique. Most people that we see in the office that have aggravated their back because of a lifting injury at home, it wasn't because they were lifting 500 pounds. It was for something little around the house, maybe picking up a sock off the floor, getting something from a low shelf or a high shelf, kind of reaching, or picking up something like this at our wood pile. So we're going to maybe do s'mores or something later tonight, so I'm going to get some firewood just brought up from our wood pile. And I just want to cover that there's more than one way to lift and bend. We have our basic squat, which everybody kind of gets, but maybe needs a little bit of practice at if your back hurts when you do it. We've got a lunge, and we've also got a hinge. And any of these can be right. You don't have to choose one. You can vary back and forth between what works best for the situation, but there is a right way to do each one of them. So what I want you guys to understand is that if I'm going down for something at kind of a weird angle, I might actually want to just do a lunge to get some of these boards in, so that if I'm putting them in the crook of my arm, I can come back up at a comfortable angle. If I'm only going part of the way down and I don't need to get as much depth to reach as low, it's probably pretty easy for me to bend my knees and start stacking that wood in here rather than twisting and bending. And lastly, if we're going to go ahead and actually come from small angle, we can actually still get a lot of power on this, but that hinge is going to go out this way and then come back up. There isn't one right way, but make sure you're using the right tool for the job. If we want to really gauge ourselves whether we're going to hurt our back or not, keep that back straight. So when you come down, you're doing a good job of moving your legs and lifting with your legs, not with your back. Let's dig a little deeper into that lunge for 1 second. A lot of times we'll see low, hard to reach spots like this where people are kind of bending from their waist and tweaking that back, especially if it's repetitive. I have people coming in all the time when they're weeding their gardens or flower beds because they were standing while they were weeding and just bending straight from the waist. That's usually not the best idea. But if we get down into our lunge position, like I've got to remove tree wraps this year from this tree that I unfortunately lost to rabbits last year. The snowbanks got so high they ate a bunch of the branches and we had die off. So just getting rid of the rest of the wraps here this year, it's way easier if I get down into a lunge position and actually unwrap my wraps rather than trying to bend from my back so much. I can keep in a fairly straight position all the way down here without actually hurting myself. And again, your legs and your arms are doing the work while your core stays tight, supporting your back instead of twisting and bending. All right, let's delve a little bit deeper into that hinge for 1 second, because this is probably one of the most useful things that I see people can do to decrease back pain or injury around the house when you're doing yard projects. Getting those hips back when we hinge, so you actually crease or break at the hips, keeping your back straight, can be really protective and actually use the most powerful muscles to do the work. I've got this trailer full of mulch and scrap wood that I need to get moved over to the other side of the yard. I can do most of the lifting, might require a little bit of help pushing from somebody else around the house, but let's just figure out how we're going to move something that's several hundred pounds without hurting our back. So if I get right up to my hitch here, the most important part here is, again, scooting those hips back. If I'm rounding from my back and trying to lift this, I guarantee you, sooner or later, you're going to hurt that back. You're going to need some help from a chiropractor, physical therapist, maybe worse, find yourself in an ER because of it. So let's prevent that in the first place. Actually hinge our hips back so that we can use the most powerful muscles for lifting by getting in underneath here and then actually driving from our legs to come back up from this position. So we're a little bit more straight leg, think almost like a deadlift rather than like a squat. The way we're going to come in through that is come right up like that. Should be my buns doing most of the work, a little bit in the legs. I'm just holding with the rest of my body, squeezing everything straight forward. This way I can guide and walk this if I needed to, and when I come back down, we just reverse the motion. It's going to reduce a lot of strain on that back. You should not feel it in your back when you're moving. That should be a leg exercise. So I thought we'd talk about sometimes there's things that are just too unwieldy, too heavy to handle by yourself. I need to get this snowblower inside this trailer, so I thought it'd be a better idea to just call over some help. So I got my dad over here. We're going to just lift this in there. Sometimes it's better to just know when to have the right tool for the job. Alright guys, so we got most of the yard work finished up, and I think these guys are tired out from your yard work, but hopefully your back is still feeling good after trying some of these tips. I know we're not having any problems, but the kids want to do a race down the driveway. So you guys ready? You did it? Are you all ready? Okay, ready, set, go!
Everybody's moving, and stop.